The first step to opening a closed heart. Why you should read Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Dear readers, do you perhaps find the word reading unfamiliar and distant? Opening a book itself might feel burdensome, and flipping through pages filled with difficult characters might feel like a tiresome assignment. However, reading is more than just an action. It is a powerful tool that helps us understand our lives and broaden our view of the world. Today, let us discuss a timeless classic, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, which can help you take your first step into the world of reading, transcending time and space. Reading this book might initially feel daunting. The weight of its classical reputation, its dramatic script format, and its historical setting might prevent you from picking it up. But please don't worry. Romeo and Juliet is not merely an old story. It is, in fact, a vivid narrative that captures universal emotions, conflicts, and profound insights into choices and their consequences, resonating deeply with our modern society and personal lives. For those of you who may feel a lack of knowledge or cultural refinement, this book will offer a new lens through which to understand the world, beyond just its plot. 1. Romeo and Juliet, that heartbreaking love story. The plot of Romeo and Juliet is likely familiar to many of you. Still, I will recount it as if it were being heard for the first time, with vivid life and clarity. The story begins in the beautiful Italian city of Verona. In this city, two aristocratic families, House Montague and House Capulet, have harbored a bitter, long-standing hatred for centuries. This enmity has become so deep that it threatens the peace of the entire city. Romeo, the only heir to the Montague family, is a sensitive young man easily moved by love. One day, he sneaks into a Capulet ball with his friends to try to forget his unrequited love for Rosalind. There, he meets Juliet, the beautiful only daughter of the Capulets. To Romeo, Juliet appears to embody all the light in the world, and the two fall passionately in love at first sight. Despite knowing the impossible barrier between their families, their hearts are irresistibly drawn toward each other. Unable to abandon their love, the two secretly marry with the help of Juliet's nurse and Father Lawrence, a spiritual guide to Romeo. Father Lawrence also hoped that the marriage of these young lovers from different families might finally end the feud. However, fate drives them toward tragedy. Shortly after the wedding, a violent fight erupts on the streets between Mercutio, Romeo's friend, and Tybalt, Juliet's cousin. Romeo tries to mediate between the two but tragically ends up causing Mercutio's death by Tybalt's hand. Emotionally shattered by his friend's death, Romeo kills Tybalt in revenge. For this murder, Romeo is banished from Verona by the city's ruler, and the young lovers are separated in heartbreak. To preserve her love for Romeo, Juliet desperately seeks a solution. Father Lawrence devises a risky yet brilliant plan. Juliet would take a potion to appear dead for 42 hours. Her family would then believe she was dead and bury her. During this time, Father Lawrence intended to send a letter to Romeo explaining everything. When Juliet awakens from the potion, Romeo would be waiting at the tomb, and they would escape Verona together. However, fate still plays its cruel tricks. For reasons unknown, the letter from Father Lawrence never reaches Romeo. Instead, Romeo hears the false news that Juliet is dead. Convinced he cannot live without Juliet, he purchases poison and heads to her tomb. There, he drinks the poison and dies beside Juliet's body. A short time later, Juliet awakens and discovers Romeo's body and the empty vial of poison. Overcome with despair, she takes Romeo's dagger and stabs herself in the chest beside his lifeless body. The tragic deaths of the young lovers force the Montagues and Capulets to finally recognize how their ancient hatred has led to such devastation. The two families reconcile, but the cost is painfully high, irreversible grief over the tragic loss of their beloved children. 2. The implications of Romeo and Juliet in our modern world. This heartbreaking story is far more than an ancient tale of love. Romeo and Juliet offers profound insights into human emotions, social conflicts, and the many choices we face in life. For those of you seeking to expand your knowledge and cultural awareness, this work delivers the following important implications. 2.1. the destructive power of blind hatred and prejudice. The root cause of the tragedy in Romeo and Juliet is the long-standing enmity between the Montagues and the Capulets. Without a clear reason, the families continue their hatred across generations in the name of tradition and family honor. This hatred suffocates individual lives and ultimately destroys Romeo and Juliet's pure love. This story is highly relevant to our modern society. We often fall into the trap of baseless prejudices and blind hatred, regional conflicts, generational divides, or ideological differences in politics. Such hatred hinders healthy dialogue and mutual understanding, intensifying unnecessary conflicts. Romeo and Juliet challenges us: is our hatred toward others truly justified? What costs will this hatred ultimately bear? The play starkly reveals how prejudice and hatred only bring suffering to everyone, urging us to break free from these destructive cycles with courage. 2.2. Tragedy caused by the lack of communication and misunderstanding. The tragic death of Romeo and Juliet is the result of various factors, but the lack of communication is a decisive element. A minor mistake in delivering a letter from Father Lawrence to Romeo leads to an irreversible misunderstanding, directly causing the lovers' deaths. If the letter had been delivered properly and Romeo had known Juliet was alive, the tragedy might have been avoided. This highlights the importance of communication in all areas of life, from personal relationships to social interactions. We often fail to express our thoughts clearly or listen to others, resulting in misunderstandings. In today's information-saturated world, exchanging accurate information and communicating with sincerity is more vital than ever. This work powerfully warns us that a lack of communication can lead to unnecessary conflicts and, at times, devastating tragedies like those of Romeo and Juliet. Through their story, we are reminded of the importance of clear communication and active listening. 2.3. The duality of youth's passion and hasty judgments. Romeo and Juliet fall into an intense and impulsive love that matches their youth. Their love is pure and beautiful, yet also impetuous and hasty. They decide to marry within days of meeting and make extreme choices without regard for the difficulties of reality. While the passion of youth can become a powerful driving force, their lack of experience and hasty decisions lead to irreversible consequences. This work praises the beauty of youth while reminding us of the importance of prudence and patience. Just as much as passion, clear-minded reasoning is essential. Before making important decisions, we should reflect thoroughly and listen to the advice of others. At life's critical junctures, we may face the temptation to make hasty judgments like Romeo and Juliet. Their story whispers to us the need to pause and think again at such moments. 2.4. Fate or choice. Human responsibility. Romeo and Juliet is often called a fateful tragedy. But was everything truly predetermined? Or was it the result of personal choices and the surrounding environment? If Romeo had not attended the Capulet party, if Juliet had not reached out to Romeo's hand, if Tybalt had not fought Mercutio, if Father Lawrence's letter had been delivered properly. Countless what-ifs offer possible paths to avoid tragedy. This work reminds us of the importance of choice in life. We must bear responsibility for our choices and their consequences. Instead of hiding behind the excuse of fate, we should reflect on how our actions can lead to ripple effects. Life is a continuous series of choices, and each small decision shapes our future. Romeo and Juliet poignantly demonstrates this truth. 2.5. The essence of love and sacrifice. This work also deeply explores the nature of love. Romeo and Juliet are prepared to sacrifice everything for each other, ultimately giving their lives. Their love, though ending tragically, remains one of humanity's eternal dreams. Their story shows that love is not merely a happy emotion, it often demands sacrifice and may come with immense pain. Yet even through that pain, love can reveal the deepest meaning of life. This work raises questions about the true nature of love and what we are willing to sacrifice for it. 3. Why should we read this book now? You might wonder, why read an old-fashioned, ancient story now? However, despite being written hundreds of years ago, Romeo and Juliet continues to resonate powerfully with our generation. First, it enhances empathy. As you read, you will empathize with Romeo and Juliet's love and weep for their suffering. You will also understand the emotions of the feuding families, Father Lawrence's inner struggles, and the feelings entangled in Mercutio and Tybalt's conflict. Gaining insight into others' lives and emotions will help you better understand your own life and the people around you. This is the first and most important step in cultivating knowledge and cultural refinement. Second, it deepens your understanding of human nature. All emotions in Romeo and Juliet, love, hatred, revenge, despair, and sacrifice, are universal human feelings that transcend time. Through this work, we gain insight into how complex and contradictory human beings are and what choices they make in different situations. This helps us better understand the diverse people and events we encounter in life. Third, it cultivates critical thinking. As you immerse yourself in the story, you will naturally ask questions like, why did this tragedy happen? Whose fault was it? And were there other choices possible? These questions encourage analysis of causes and effects, as well as the search for alternatives, strengthening critical thinking abilities beyond mere comprehension of the plot. Fourth, it enhances cultural literacy. Shakespeare's works are a cornerstone of Western literature. Romeo and Juliet has inspired countless artistic works, films, plays, and music, and its influence persists today. Reading this play is not just about encountering a story, it is about building essential cultural literacy to understand Western culture. Fifth, it allows you to experience the beauty of language and expression. While Shakespeare's language may differ from modern English, its metaphors, descriptions, and dialogue depth evoke admiration. Experiencing this linguistic beauty through a modern English translation can enrich your expressive power and offer a new perspective on the world. Final words: don't be afraid, dive into the book. Dear readers, intellectual and cultural refinement is not only about reading many difficult books or understanding complicated theories. It is about cultivating the ability to understand the world, empathize with others, and think for oneself. And the first step in this process is the courage to open a book. Romeo and Juliet will show you that books can be enjoyable and that classics are connected to our everyday lives. If Shakespeare's style seems challenging, start with an easy-to-understand translation, a graphic novel, or even a film adaptation. What matters is taking one step closer to this story in any form. This work teaches us about the nobility of love, the foolishness of hatred, and the importance of communication, as well as the dangers of impulsive decisions. The tragic love story of Romeo and Juliet is not just a fairy tale, but a mirror reflecting the multifaceted nature of human life. So, don't hesitate any longer. Let go of your vague fear of thick books and the name Shakespeare, and dive into this treasure of a story. Within it, you will discover new wisdom and emotion you never knew existed, and gain a wide perspective to understand the world. I sincerely hope that your beautiful journey of reading begins now. An infinite world filled with books awaits you.